Good morning, everybody. If this works out, this will be episode 1 of Mutterings of an Outback Recluse. It's pretty much dawn or just after dawn, and I'm taking a morning bike ride. I'll go around the outskirts of my little town. Basically, I'll go around to approximately to the town limit signs on all of the roads that go into town, all of the town. And I'm not going to go at any particularly hurried pace. The exercise is just it's the exercise. But I will travel a little bit over 8 kilometres in about 30 minutes, so I'm taking it easy. I have had other YouTube channels before. I had some success with them, but I had all the social media links on with it and that sort of thing, and due to some hard feelings and arguments and so on that I have had on social media with family members and whatnot, I just shut down my social media accounts and walked away from them. That was years ago now. But my other YouTube channels, well, that was a review channel for one, so a product review channel. What's going on here? There we go. I'm having some troubles with my gearing at the moment. My granddaughter likes playing with my bike. She's only 6 years old, and she likes moving the levers and twisting the knobs, sounding the bell and so on the standing bike. Anyway, back to the story. So I'd had a gut full of social media squabbles, basically, and just walked away from my social media accounts. I had to keep some running for communication purposes in the family. Specific example, Messenger. We use the Messenger, or I use the Messenger app to keep in contact with some of my close friends and family. Well, to have Messenger, you've got to have a Facebook app. Facebook account. So I've kept my Facebook account going, but I'm not active on it. Anyone that was to look on my account would see that the last post that I made, or status update or something like that, would have been done about 4 years ago. And once I walked away from social media, that impacted on my channels as well, that I had YouTube channels. So now comes this, if this is worked out, it'll be a completely new channel that nobody knows about. With my last, or with my previous channels, a lot of the support and the viewers that I got in the initial days were from family and friends. Good morning. This is just a cold start. No one knows about this channel. I'm just starting it up, and that's my outlet for creativity. And I'll tell you a little bit about my town on a bit further down the track, when you can see the actual name of it. It has an unusual spelling. But I'll tell you about my area. I'm in the southern Flinders ranges of the South Australian Outback. It's a little town, about 30 kilometres from the coast, southern coast of South Australia. Well, it's the only coast of South Australia. Services accompany population density, and we do not have the greatest population density. Because of that, even fundamental services that people take for granted, such as weather, are affected. Oh, the weather remains the same, but the actual weather reporting is affected, I mean. The nearest Bureau of Meteorology recording station is at the Port Augusta Airport. Now, Port Augusta Airport is about 50 kilometres from where I am now. I am up in the ranges, Flinders ranges, and obviously Port Augusta is at sea level. And when you look at the weather maps and readings and forecasts and that sort of thing on the television news, or you're listening to the radio, all of those readings are based upon what the readings were taken at the Port Augusta airport. And I'll insert, when I get back home and do some editing, I'll insert a photo I took from earlier, last week. Today's Sunday, so it's a new week, from last week, where we actually crossed the 50-degree mark. Now we probably do that once every year or once every second year, sometimes more often. I'll go this way for something different. And that wasn't recorded on the official Bureau of Meteorology site. That's actually part of the reasoning why I chose this camera that I'm using now. This camera that I'm using now, well, first point is it's on the budget-minded side of the price issue. And I've done that because if it should fail, if it should break, get damaged, lost or stolen, etc., I can reasonably, or I can replace it without a great concern. But that's not the only point that I've selected it for. And yeah, it is actually all these points I'm about to mention come together. That's only a small part of it. A bigger part of my reasoning in choosing this camera is that it has an all metal case which acts as a heat sink. And as I said, I'm in the outback and it does get hot here, and we've already discussed the high temperatures that we get. Well, good tip for you folks out there, if you're planning on travelling to an area like this in the outback that gets hot or whatever, devices shut down, or cameras and that sort of thing with lithium ion batteries shut down in high heat. I've had gimbals and cameras and so on like that shut down in the heat and refuse to work, which isn't great if you're planning on taking a holiday snap or video. Good morning! It's a beautiful day compared to what we have had. I'm sure that gentleman thinks I'm mad talking to myself. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, that's right. Full metal case, heat sink. It helps dissipate the heat. Lithium ion batteries swell and fail in the heat. I've had dash cams powered by lithium ion batteries which did that. It wasn't just the battery that failed. When it swelled up in size, it also damaged other componentry in the shell of the camera, of the dash cam. Now I've done that, so I've had review channels where I discuss this exact point, and because I'm speaking to you guys and I've gotten a little bit distracted from my usual route, I was meant to turn off down there. Only 1 block difference, so I don't think it'll affect my route terribly, my total distance. Anyway, so having something that acts as a heat sink and dissipates heat helps enormously. I threw away that dash cam I discussed a moment ago. Years ago this happened, and ever since then I've only ever bought and used capacitor powered dash cams. They cope with the hot conditions much better. The gimbal that I had for filming, that packing up and shutting up shop when it was too hot, that was a pain in the neck. But oh well, it's life. It is what it is. So coming back to this camera, it has all glass lenses. And that's, I'm just trying to work out my gears still. There we go. That's a big thing, because in Australia or in the Outback we get an abundance of UV light in the sunlight. UV light over time can cause some plastics, such as the ones used in camera lenses, to turn milky. You would have seen that same phenomena with the car's headlights. All glass headlights over time remain clear, but headlights which are made from polycarbonate or have a polycarbonate housing over time turn milky. That's the whole point of having headlight polishing kits and restoration kits, is to remove that appearance. So with regards to this camera, all glass lenses are a big asset or a feature that I liked. It has Wi-Fi connectability, and it has flimsy doors for its battery compartments and SIM card, or not SIM card, SD card housing and all that sort of thing. So being able to transfer files from like the recordings or the still photos, etc., directly to another device such as my phone without having to open up those doors or touch the camera, that's a great thing. It really is. Now, for what it's worth, I'll mention, even though I live in the outback, I actually don't get out in the outback conditions very often because I have eye troubles. I'm going blind over time. I've only got effective use of one eye now, and I have to wear prosthetics in that eye, one good effective eye, to have good sight. Without going into a whole lot of boring detail about it, it's basically a thumbnail sized piece of plastic similar to a contact lens on steroids that replaces or restores the shape of my cornea. And that means that dust becomes a problem, dryness is a big problem, and I live in an outback area full of dust and hot dry winds and so on. Sure, that explains that. Like right now, doing this bike ride, I'm wearing ski goggles, like snow skiing goggles. And there's two reasons for that. Number one is to stop the wind from drying up my eyes. The other reason is because snow skiing goggles are tinted. And that sun, when you're looking into it, it's bright. Because it's just past dawn, you're looking into all the sun a lot of the time. One thing that disappointed me about, well, still disappoints me about Corn. That's my town. I can't do anything about it. But you'll notice that none of these houses have lawn. Some of them have grasses growing, but not lawn. We only rent a house in town. And when we first moved to Corn, over a decade ago now, we did live in a large house on the block of land that the house was on was 2/3 of an acre at least, and it did have grass. Again, not a lawn, it had grass, which I did try and keep mowed. And 2021 comes along and COVID hits, and there's restrictions on travelling and border closures and all of that sort of thing. It's happened everywhere, so I needed or wanted a new mower. There are no mower shops in my town, and that presented me with an excuse to go travelling in amongst the COVID crisis, pandemic, travel restrictions and so on. I had reason to travel, a legitimate reason. So I'd already chosen the type of mower I wanted. I drove 4 hours to my closest Bunnings warehouse store. For those of you viewing this who are not in Australia, Bunnings warehouse is what you'd call a big box store. So I bought myself an $800 self-propelled 22-inch Toro. Drove 4 hours down to pick it up on a major freeway, and I was the only car on it. 4 hours back with my mower, and I loved it. The irony is, 3 months after I bought it, $800 lawnmower, we moved house to a yard that has no lawn. Yeah, that was 2021. We're now in 2025, so time flies, but for all of this time I have had an almost new lawnmower in storage in my shed. I'm not going to sell it. Because I enjoy it. I enjoy mowing. Useful tip for any high schoolers and that sort of thing feeling pressured to choose a career. Before you decide to follow what you're interested in, first ask yourself this question: are you the type that values delayed gratification, or do you prefer instant gratification? And I'll explain what I mean by that, but basically knowing that will help you choose a career or employment that you're happy in. And that old saying is absolutely true. If you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. So to bring that into a bit more sharper focus, personal story, my own. I've had jobs where I've been the second in charge of supermarkets. I've been second in charge at music stores and that sort of thing, you know, 2 ICs. A bunch of white collar jobs like that, a bunch of blue collar jobs. And the job that gave me the most satisfaction, the most enjoyment, was when I had my own business as a gardener lawnmower, or a gardener yard maintenance. See the spelling of corn? Q-U-O-R-N. Told you it's a bit unusual. Yes, that's Corn, my little town. But wilder streams. Anyway, back to the story. So, lawn mowing I found the most rewarding and enjoyable because you could see that you'd made a difference immediately. You push a lawnmower across a piece of grass that needs mowing, and within 10 seconds of pushing that mower, you can look behind you and see where you've been, that you've made an immediate difference, beneficial difference. I love that. That's immediate gratification. People like lawyers, accountants, doctors maybe, in some cases, they get delayed gratification. They see the fruits of their labour months or years later. Sometimes they never see the fruits of their labour, rewards from it at all. So, if you really want to try and work out what type of career you want, that's an excellent place to start your search, by finding an answer to that question. Do you want to see the immediate results of your efforts? The best job I ever had was for a different reason than that altogether. Tied into that, but also a different reason. And that was building a vineyard. That was one of the jobs that I had. In the Australian summer, the same crew, day in, day out, of 6 blokes, me and 5 other blokes, had a job of clearing out paddocks of boulders and that kind of thing, planting grapes, building the fences and so on around the vineyards, and with the wires for the grapevines to grow on. And that was brutal in some ways. It was at remote location, 40 plus degree heat in the middle of summer, no wind break, I mean full sun exposure. You get the idea. But the thing about that that made it so special, and by the way, it was a 2-hour ride to work and a 2-hour trip home from work. The workers had to pay their fuel to get themselves there. I owned a bus, a minibus. So I'd pile in the other 5 workers, they'd chip in for fuel, I'd get them to work and back, and because I was driving, they covered my share of the fuel as well. But anyway, I'm digressing from the point. It was the same 6 blokes working in that hot fields, day in, day out, doing a mundane, laborious job. But the stories that came out, the utter rubbish that we all spoke, I swear most days I'd get home from work with a cramp in my jaw from laughing so much. It was a once in a lifetime combination of workers. We all just gelled with each other. On the way home, I'd pull in a cafe or pub from a town we went through, let the boys buy a beer or two as travellers for coming home after a hard day's work. But we loved it all. I mean, honestly, it was a joy to go and work there. And I got paid pretty well for it. So that's the end of this ride. We've covered about 8 kilometres in probably about 30 minutes. I can't be certain until I get off my bike and look at my watch and so on. But if the camera worked out and everything like that, that's episode 1 of Mutterings of an Outback Recluse. Bye.